The laughter rang like a chorus of mismatched instruments, filling the vaulted chamber of the Aurelian Council. Glassy walls refracted the light from twin suns beyond the spires of Xerath Prime, casting fractured rainbows over the assembled delegates. Alien voices, clicking, buzzing, vibrating in octaves unfamiliar to human ears, blended into a single mocking roar. Captain Eric Vance stood alone at the center of the chamber's circular platform, his boots polished but unremarkable compared to the shimmering robes and ceremonial armor worn by the others. He didn't flinch under the weight of their derision. His jaw was set, eyes fixed on a grand strategist. Let them laugh, he thought. They had no idea what was coming. Teleportation? Grand strategist Zorko's voice slid across the room like a blade dragged on stone. His scaled face stretched into something resembling a grin, though his kind had no lips. Your species barely left its cradle 2 centuries ago, and now you claim mastery over instant movement? What quaint lies. Eric didn't bother raising his voice. It's not a claim. It's a demonstration waiting to happen. A ripple of chittering followed his words, like a hive stirred with stick. The other delegates, a forest of tentacles, crystalline limbs, and gleaming exoskeletons, shifted restlessly in their seats. Some sneered with their entire bodies. Others simply turned away, unwilling to waste attention on what they saw as human delusion. Zorko leaned forward from his elevated throne, the intricate gold plates of his armor catching the sun's light. Even if this trick of yours exists, he said, voice dripping with condescension, it is irrelevant. Humans are not a power. You are newcomers, barely civilized. Your ships crawl compared to fleets of the Aurelian armadas. You have no place in matters of war. Funny, Eric replied evenly. I thought war was about winning, not appearances. The laughter returned, harsher this time. One delegate, a gelatinous being with a face like shifting smoke, rippled and said, human arrogance knows no bounds. First you begged for a seat on this council. Now you wish to command fleets? Eric turned slowly to face the assembly. Begged. His voice was soft, but it carried across the chamber, its sharpness slicing through the noise. Earth earned its seat after saving your trade routes from pirate syndicates you couldn't handle. Or has the council already forgotten? The room quieted for a heartbeat, some of the aliens blinking or shifting uncomfortably. It was true. 2 years ago, human ingenuity and stubbornness had turned the tide of a crisis no Aurelian strategy could resolve. But Zorko wasn't about to admit that. Luck, Zorko hissed. Primitive luck. A single act of fortune does not make you warriors. Eric's jaw tightened. He thought of the faces of the engineers back home, the sleepless nights in Earth's orbital shipyards, the dangerous experiments that had cost lives to perfect the one technology no one else believed possible. It wasn't luck. It was sweat, brilliance, and sacrifice. Luck doesn't build ships that can move from one star to another in a heartbeat, Eric said, his voice like tempered steel. And luck won't save your empire when the Vrax tear through your fleets. You know they're coming. You've seen what they do. The name silenced the room. Even Zorko's eyes narrowed, the arrogant gleam in them dimming for a fraction of a second. Everyone knew of the Vrax Dominion, an expansionist swarm of living warships, half organic and half machine, devouring every system in its path. For decades, the Aurelians had barely held them back with fleets that dwarfed anything humanity could build. The idea that Earth might hold a weapon that could shift the balance was unthinkable to them. Zorko spoke again, voice quieter but no less venomous. You presume too much, human. The defense of this galaxy is the responsibility of those with the strength and wisdom to wield it. Your kind brings neither. We do not need your toys or your desperate tricks. Eric stepped closer to the edge of the platform, his figure small compared to the towering aliens, but his presence unmistakable. Then don't ask for our help when the Vrax reach this world, he said. We'll be busy saving our own. A low hum filled the chamber, the sound of 1,000 alien minds calculating the weight of his words. Some of them looked at him differently now, not with respect, but with something colder, suspicion. The council chairwoman, a being of light and glass named Asira, intervened. Her voice was clear, like wind striking crystal. Captain Vance, she said, Earth's seat here is provisional. Speak with care. We convened this council to discuss a unified strategy against the Vrax incursion on the eastern fringe. Not to indulge. Indulge. Eric, cut in. While you debate, colonies are burning. Outposts are vanishing. The Vrax are moving faster than your report suggests, and you're sitting here arguing over who gets to lead the charge. The interruption was a breach of etiquette, but he didn't care. He had seen the latest intelligence, had watched the feeds of shattered worlds. The Aurelians were powerful, yes, but they were slow, mired in endless deliberations. Humanity didn't have that luxury. Zorko's scales flared a dark red, a sign of anger among his kind. You dare lecture this council, mammal? Your species crawled into the stars less than 300 years ago. Do you think you see what we do not? I think you're too blind to see what's right in front of you, Eric shot back. You believe your fleets are untouchable. That arrogance is going to get you all killed. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Eric's words hung in the air like sparks, daring anyone to extinguish them. Finally, Osira spoke again, her voice calm but edged with warning. Captain Vance, you'll provide evidence of your so-called fleet technology at the next session. Until then, this council will proceed as planned. Eric inclined his head, though his eyes never left Zorko. You'll get your demonstration, he said, and there was something in his tone, a promise or perhaps a threat. He turned and walked toward the exit, his boots echoing against the polished floor. Behind him, the council murmured, some in ridicule, others in curiosity. Eric didn't care which. The seed was planted. They could laugh all they wanted. Soon, they wouldn't be laughing. As the great doors closed behind him, he activated the secure comlink embedded in his wrist. Vance to Ouroboros, he said quietly. Prepare the fleet. It's time. A calm voice responded. Understood, Captain. Jump protocols are ready. Eric smiled faintly, a smile that held both defiance and anticipation. Let's show them what humanity can really do. The war reports arrived like funeral tolls, each transmission worse than the last. Colony ships lost in deep space. Mining worlds stripped bare in hours. Outposts reduced to debris clouds orbiting dead suns. Every broadcast on the eastern fringe carried the same grim signature. The Vrax Dominion was advancing faster than the Council dared admit. Captain Eric Vance leaned over the glowing console in his private quarters aboard the Ouroboros, the flagship of Earth's fleet. The room was small, its walls lined with steel-gray panels and faintly humming with the quiet thrum of the ship's engines. A projection flickered above the console, jagged red lines pushing across a galactic map, slicing through Aurelian defenses as if they were paper. They've lost 6 sectors in 2 weeks, said Commander Riley Knox, standing beside him. Knox was tall, broad-shouldered, with a shaved head and a stare that could cut through armor. His voice was low, controlled, but Eric could hear the restrained anger beneath it. Eric straightened, crossing his arms. The Council's reports say 3 sectors, he said. Knox gave a short, humorless laugh. The Council's reports are sanitized trash. Our intelligence teams intercepted emergency calls from the surviving fleets. The Vrax are tearing through the eastern fringe like wildfire. They're hiding the truth, Eric. Not hiding, Eric said. Delaying. They think if they drag their feet long enough, someone else will solve it. Knox's jaw tightened. And by someone, they mean us. Eric didn't answer right away. His gaze lingered on the map, following the steady progression of red marks that represented annihilated systems. There was no mercy in the Vrax advance, no negotiation, no survivors, only absorption into the Dominion's endless swarm. He finally spoke. If they won't act, we will. Earth didn't build the Ouroboros and her fleet to sit in orbit looking harmless. Knox tilted his head slightly, studying him. You mean to launch before the Council authorizes it? A ghost of a smile crossed Eric's lips. You know me too well. Before Knox could respond, the console beeped with an incoming transmission. The face of Admiral Helena Serrano appeared, her sharp features set against the backdrop of Earth Orbital Command Center. Her voice, calm but firm, filled the room. Captain Vance, I've reviewed the Council proceedings, Serrano said without preamble. Zorko's dismissal of our proposals was predictable, but your statement, let's say it didn't go unnoticed. Eric met her gaze on the holographic display. Someone had to speak the truth. And you did, Serrano replied. But now we're being watched. The Aurelians don't trust us, and I suspect Zorko will try to block any action we take. She leaned forward slightly. That's why you'll proceed anyway. Knox raised a brow, but said nothing. Operation Mirage is approved. Serrano continued. You'll take the fleet to the eastern fringe, test the teleportation drive under combat conditions, and cripple the Vrax vanguard. Show the Council what we're capable of. Eric felt a surge of adrenaline. This was the moment they had prepared for, the gamble that would either prove humanity's worth or doom them entirely. Understood, Admiral, he said. We'll deliver results. See that you do, Serrano said. Her eyes softened, just slightly. And Eric, make them respect us. The transmission cut, leaving the room in a hum of silence. Knox exhaled slowly. So that's it. We jump in, kill as many Vrax as we can, and hope the Aurelians stop laughing long enough to notice. Exactly, Eric said. He tapped a command on the console, switching the projection to display the Ouroboros fleet. 12 sleek warships, each fitted with the experimental teleportation core that had cost Earth 2 decades of sacrifice to perfect. The teleportation drive was humanity's greatest secret. While the Aurelians relied on massive warp gates and slow hyperspace corridors, the Ouroboros could blink, vanish from one point in space, and reappear anywhere within a star system in seconds. It wasn't just fast. It was unpredictable, and in war, unpredictability was power. Run the jump protocols again, Eric said. I want the fleet ready within 6 hours. Knox nodded and left the room, his footsteps echoing down the corridor. Eric lingered, his gaze fixed on the fleet projection. Each ship represented not just Earth strength, but the blood and resolve of countless engineers, scientists, and soldiers who refused to accept humanity's place as second-class citizens in the galaxy. 6 hours later, the fleet assembled in high orbit above Mars, its ships gleaming like polished blades against the dark. The Ouroboros led at the center, its black hull etched with faint silver lines that shimmered faintly as the teleportation core charged. The bridge buzzed with quiet efficiency. Officers moved between consoles, checking power levels, jump coordinates, and weapon calibrations. The low hum of the engines filled the room like a heartbeat. Jump coordinates set, reported Lieutenant Asha Patel, her fingers dancing across the navigation controls. Target, Eastern Fringe, Darna System. Eric stood at the forward viewport, hands clasped behind his back. Through the reinforced glass, the curve of Mars glowed beneath them, its surface bathed in pale sunlight. Fleet status, he asked. All ships report ready, Patel replied. Knox entered from the side corridor, helmet tucked under one arm. Vance, the crew's anxious, he said quietly. This will be the first combat jump we've attempted. If something goes wrong. It won't, Eric interrupted. We didn't spend 20 years building this just to fail now. Knox studied him for a moment, then gave a short nod. Fair enough. Let's do it. Eric stepped forward, voice clear and steady. All ships, prepare to jump. The bridge lights dimmed as power diverted to the teleportation core. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the deck plates like a living pulse. 3, 2, 1. Patel's voice cut through the tension. The stars outside twisted. For a single, impossible instant, the universe itself seemed to bend. Then, with no sense of motion, they were gone. The Ouroboros reappeared on the edge of the Darna system, the darkness of deep space broken by the burning wreckage of Aurelian ships. The aftermath of battle floated like a graveyard, shattered hulls spinning silently, their lights extinguished. Scanning, Patel said, her voice tight. Multiple Vrax signatures detected. They're still here. Knox stepped forward. Contact in 30 seconds. That's a Vanguard fleet, 10 bio ships, maybe more. Eric's eyes narrowed. On the display, the Vrax appeared as grotesque. Pulsing masses of black and crimson, their organic hulls alive with veins of energy. They moved like predators, graceful and terrifying. Then we hit them hard. Eric said, signal the fleet. We strike first. Patel's hand hesitated on the comm control. Sir, this will reveal the teleportation drive to anyone watching. Good, Eric replied. It's time the galaxy stopped underestimating us. The silence before battle felt heavier than the vacuum outside the hull. On the bridge of the Ouroboros, every officer was locked into place, eyes fixed on the tactical display. Red blips moved across the holographic grid. 10 Vrax bioships, their pulsating organic forms radiating heat and power. Each was the size of a small city, bristling with energy tendrils that could strip a cruiser to its bones. Captain Eric Vance stood at the helm, one hand resting on the back of Lieutenant Patel's chair. He studied the enemy formations. They drifted in lazy arcs, circling the debris of the Aurelian fleet they had just devoured. The image of shattered ships floating lifelessly was burned into Eric's mind, a reminder of what failure looked like. "They haven't detected us yet," Patel said, her voice low, almost reverent. "We're still outside their sensory net." Eric nodded. "Good. Let's keep it that way, until we're right on top of them." Commander Knox, standing to Eric's left, frowned at the display. "This is the moment, Captain. One misstep and we're dead." Eric's tone was steady, but his words carried an edge. "One perfect strike, and they'll never forget us." The Vrax were predators that thought in swarms, not fleets. They moved like living currents, their ships coordinating as if sharing a single mind. No conventional fleet could outmaneuver them. They adapted too fast, overwhelmed with sheer brutality. But they had never faced a fleet that could vanish and reappear at will. "Engage teleportation matrix," Eric ordered. The Ouroboros shuddered as the teleportation drive activated. Silver lines etched into the ship's hull lit up, pulsing in unison with the heart of the core buried deep within. The hum of power built into a vibrating growl, felt in every bone. "All ships report ready," Patel said. "Jump solution locked." Eric drew a breath, eyes never leaving the display. Fleet blink. The universe inverted. Stars smeared into ribbons of light. There was no sensation of movement, only a blink of existence. One moment at the system's edge, the next directly above the Vrax formation. Targets acquired. Patel called, "Fire all forward batteries." Eric's voice was sharp as a blade. The Ouroboros unleashed hell. Rail cannons fired tungsten slugs at hypersonic speeds, streaking like spears of light. Plasma lances cut to the black flesh of the nearest Vrax ship, igniting its surface with molten fire. Missile salvos followed, the warheads detonating with sun-bright flashes. The Vrax howled. The sound wasn't audible, but their bioorganic hulls emitted vibrations that registered as a deep, bone-shaking resonance. The enemy formation scattered, tendrils flaring as they tried to react. But the human fleet was already gone. "Jump," Eric commanded. The Ouroboros blinked again, reappearing behind the Vrax line. Before the swarm could reorient, the second wave hit. On the bridge, tension dissolved into raw focus. 2 Vrax ships destroyed. Patel reported. "Third one's venting energy. Critical damage." Knox grinned, teeth flashing like a wolf's. "They don't know where to turn. It's like punching ghosts." "Keep them guessing," Eric said. "Cycle random jump coordinates. Hit hard. Disappear. Repeat." For the next 5 minutes, the human fleet danced through the battlefield like phantoms. Each teleport placed them at impossible angles, one instant above, the next below, always just out of reach. Vrax counterfire lanced wildly through empty space, their weapons tearing apart their own wreckage. 5 targets down, Patel announced, her tone a mix of disbelief and exhilaration. "We've never seen kill rates like this." "They're adapting," Knox warned, pointing to the tactical feed. The remaining ships were spreading out, forcing the humans to choose between them. "We can't let them reset the field." Eric's gaze hardened. "Then we take the head of the snake. Target their command ship." The Vrax command vessel was a nightmare of black armor and crimson veins, shaped like a monstrous insect with wings that glimmered with bioluminescent energy. It pulsed with a steady rhythm as though alive. "Lock the core weapons," Eric ordered. "Charge rail cannons for synchronized fire." Patel's hands moved fast, her voice crisp, coordinates locked, ready to jump on your mark. Knox leaned closer. "You know if we miss this, they'll tear us apart." Eric's answer was simple. "We won't miss. Jump." The Ouroboros appeared less than 5 kilometers from the command ship, close enough for the viewport to be filled by the grotesque, writhing surface of the wrack's vessel. Fire! The rail cannon screamed, unleashing a concentrated volley directly into the creature's core. The impact tore through its living armor, the kinetic force splitting its body like an overripe fruit. Plasma beams followed, carving burning channels through its organs. The wrack's ship convulsed, emitting a blinding flare of red light as its internal systems collapsed. Its death scream reverberated through the void, a vibration that rattled the Ouroboros' hull. Then it split apart, fragments tumbling into the dark. Command vessel neutralized, Patel confirmed, almost breathless. The remaining wrack ships froze, their coordinated movements fracturing without the hive signal. For the first time, they looked vulnerable. "Push the attack," Eric said. "End this." The human fleet moved with ruthless precision. One by one, the crippled wrack ships fell under concentrated fire. Each blink of the teleportation drives brought them closer, each strike shattering the enemy's confidence. Minutes later, silence returned to the Darnat system. The debris field now included 10 wrack's corpses, their blackened remains drifting lifeless among the wreckage of the Aurelian fleet. The bridge crew erupted in cheers, but Eric raised a hand. "Save it," he said. "We've won a battle, not the war." Knox turned to him, still grinning. "That was history, Eric. We just tore through a wrack's vanguard with 0 losses. The Council can't ignore this." "They'll try," Eric replied. His tone carried no triumph, only resolve. "They'll say we broke protocol, acted without permission. Let them. The galaxy needs to see this." Patel glanced over from her console. "We're receiving a long-range transmission from Xerath Prime. It's the Council. They want to debrief immediately." Eric's mouth curved into a faint, knowing smile. "Of course they do. Patch it through to the secure channel." Knox chuckled. "Think Zorko's still laughing?" "Not anymore," Eric said. He turned toward the viewport, watching the drifting wreckage. Now he's wondering how a primitive species just did what his fleets couldn't. As the fleet regrouped, Eric walked to the captain's chair and sat, his posture steady but his mind running through the implications. The wracks weren't beaten. This was just the opening move. But today, humanity had shown its hand. "Set a course for Xerath," he ordered. "It's time the Council heard how Earth fights its wars." The Ouroboros powered up its teleportation core once more, the silver lines glowing like veins of light across the hull. The next jump would take them not to battle, but to judgment, and to the inevitable storm of politics waiting on the other side. The Council chamber on Xerath Prime was silent when Captain Eric Vance entered. The laughter that had once greeted him was gone, replaced by uneasy whispers and wary glances. Holographic projections of the Darnat battle hovered above the center of the room, replaying the destruction of the wrack's fleet. Every delegate had watched it, some in shock, others in disbelief. Zorko's eyes burned like molten iron as he rose from his throne. "You defied Council orders, human," he hissed. "You deployed untested technology without authorization and risked destabilizing the front lines. Explain yourself." Eric stopped at the platform center, standing as if he belonged there. "I risked nothing the Council wasn't already losing. Your fleets were dying while you debated protocol. I chose action." "You speak of action," Zorko growled, "but what I see is recklessness. Teleportation drives? No species has mastered them safely. What abomination of science have you unleashed?" Eric's voice was calm, but every syllable cut with precision. "You call it abomination. I call it survival. Earth built what we needed because no one else would stand between the wracks and extinction." A murmur swept the chamber. Several delegates turned to Syra, the chairwoman, but she said nothing. She watched Eric with an intensity that bordered on curiosity, as though seeing him for the first time. "Enough!" Zorko spat, slamming a clawed hand against the arm of his seat. "The humans have violated Council law. I demand the immediate seizure of their fleet." Eric's jaw tightened. "Try it." The word hung in the air like a challenge. The chamber froze. Even Zorko, for all his arrogance, blinked at the audacity. Eric stepped forward, his voice rising. While you argue over who holds the most titles, the Vraks are carving through your borders. The Darnith system would have been next on their path to Xerath. We stopped them. Not you. Not your fleets. Humanity did. Asira finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. Zorko, the human, speaks truth. The Darnith battle was decisive. The Council owes its gratitude. Gratitude? Zorko barked, turning to her. You would give gratitude to upstarts who meddle with forces they cannot control? Eric's gaze locked with his. You're afraid, not of us, but the fact that we've done what you couldn't. You fear that we've proven you're not invincible. The strategist's scales darkened, his anger barely contained. You presume much, Captain. Do you think your primitive fleet could stand alone against the Vraks? Your teleportation trick will not save you forever. It's not a trick, Eric said coldly. It's a warning. Humanity doesn't wait for permission to survive. Before Zorko could answer, the chamber lights flickered. A sudden alarm pierced the air. A holographic display flared to life, projecting a live feed from the outer defenses of Xerath Prime. The Vraks were here. Massive black ships, larger than any seen at Darnith, were breaking through the defensive perimeter. Their tendrils lashed like whips of energy, ripping Aurelian cruisers apart. The feed showed fire and wreckage tumbling into the planet's orbit. Asira rose from her seat, her luminous form trembling with urgency. All fleets to immediate readiness. Evacuate civilians from orbital platforms. Zorko barked orders into his communicator, but his composure cracked. This is impossible. They bypassed our outer sectors. Eric didn't wait. He opened his comm link. Advance to Ouroboros. Prepare for combat jump. Target the nearest Vraks formation outside Xerath. Confirm, Captain. Came Patel's crisp voice. Zorko turned on him. You will not take command here. Eric shot him a glare that silenced the room. Then watch your empire burn while you argue. Or stand aside and let someone who knows how to fight handle this. Minutes later, Eric stood on the bridge of the Ouroboros. The view outside was chaos. Aurelian ships firing wildly, explosions scattering across orbit, the hulking silhouettes of Vraks vessels cutting through the fence line like predators in a feeding frenzy. Coordinates locked, Patel reported. We're clear to jump. Nox stood at Eric's side, jaws set like stone. Their main force is bigger this time. We're going to have to hit and keep moving. Eric nodded. Then we give them a storm they can't track. Jump. The fleet vanished, reappearing in the middle of the Vraks formation. Surprise was immediate. Rail cannons roared, shredding the closest bio ships before they could turn. The Ouroboros pivoted, plasma lances carving glowing wounds through the enemy's living armor. 2 down. Patel called, but they're closing fast. Bling again, Eric ordered. The fleet vanished, only to strike from above this time, hammering the Vraks with missile barges. Explosions lit the void like fireworks. The Aurelians, seeing an opening, surged forward, their ships rallying around the sudden chaos. The bridge shook violently as a shock wave slammed into them. Vrak's energy pulse. Patel shouted, shields holding, but barely. Jump us out, Eric said. Negative. Nox barked. Core is cooling. We need 15 seconds. 15 seconds felt like a lifetime as a massive Vraks dreadnought loomed into view, its maw-like weapon charging with crimson energy. Target that weapon, Eric commanded. All forward guns fired, streams of plasma and slugs ripping into the creature's face. It roared, a vibration that felt alive, then collapsing on itself as the core detonated. The Aurelians began to push the enemy back, emboldened by humanity's relentless strikes. On the comm channel, Asira's voice rang out. Captain Vance, your tactics are destabilizing the swarm. Keep pressing them. Eric grinned faintly. You heard her. Let's finish this. The Ouroboros blinked 3 times in rapid succession, a dizzying sequence of jumps that disoriented the Vraks and shredded their rear lines. Every shot landed with surgical precision, cutting their swarm into fragments. After what felt like hours, but was barely 20 minutes, the last of the Vrak ships detonated in a blaze of fire and black ichor. Silence returned, broken only by the distant calm chatter of surviving Aurelian vessels. Nox slumped into a chair, exhaling hard. That was insane. We should be dead 10 times over. But we're not, Eric said, his voice steady. And now the council knows why. Back on Xerath Prime, the chamber looked different. No one mocked him now. Delegates watched Eric with something approaching fear. Zorko's voice was low but bitter. This changes nothing. Humanity is reckless, dangerous. This changes everything. Asira interrupted. Without the humans, we would have lost this world. Their fleet is not just a weapon, it is hope. Zorko's glare could have cut through steel, but he said nothing. Eric met Asira's gaze. The Vrax aren't stopping. If we don't stand together, nothing will matter. She nodded. Then we stand together. The council chamber no longer echoed with laughter. It trembled with tension. The holographic display of the galaxy floated above the center dais, its edges glowing red, where Vrax forces continued their relentless advance. Xerath Prime had survived, but the war was far from over. Every delegate in the chamber now understood that survival demanded something greater than pride or tradition. Captain Eric Van stood beside Asira, the chairwoman's crystalline form radiating pale light. He had no titles, no rank recognized by the council beyond his captaincy, yet all eyes were fixed on him. Humanity's victory at Xerath had shattered centuries of assumptions. You've seen what our fleet can do, Eric began, his voice steady. Teleportation gives us speed and precision no other armada can match. But a single victory isn't enough. The Vrax adapt. If we wait, they'll learn to counter us. Zorko's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. And you expect us to hand over command to a human? Your kind has no experience in galactic scale war. Eric turned toward him, unflinching. I don't want a command. I want your cooperation. Humanity will lead the first strike into Vrax space. Your fleets can follow, if you have the courage to keep up. The strategist's scales rippled in anger, but he said nothing. The murmurs from the other delegates drowned him out. Many had already seen the footage from Darnath and Xerath, ships appearing and vanishing like ghosts, tearing the swarm apart in minutes. Asira raised her hand, silencing the chamber. The humans offer us something we do not possess: unpredictability. Without them, our world will fall. I propose we grant Captain Vance operational authority for a joint strike task force. The vote was swift and unanimous, save for Zorko's single, bitter dissent. Hours later, Eric stood on the bridge of the Ouroboros, gazing at the assembled fleet. It was no longer just Earth's 12 ships. Aurelian cruisers, crystalline vessels of the Zalari, and even the segmented, living ships of the Irix swarmed in formation. The council had committed everything they could spare. Commander Nox stepped up beside him, a grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. Look at that. They're actually letting us lead. Not letting, Eric said. Following. There's a difference. Lieutenant Patel's voice carried from a navigation console. Coordinates set for the jump to Vrax territory. The fleet's waiting for your signal. Eric drew a breath. This was no longer about proving humanity's worth. This was about ending the nightmare before it spread any further. Transmit to all ships, he ordered. A comm channel opened, linking hundreds of crews, dozens of species. Eric's voice carried to them all. This is Captain Vance of Earth. You've all seen what the Vrax do. You've lost friends, families, entire worlds. Today, we take the fight to them. Stay sharp. Follow our lead. And don't stop until the swarm is ash in silence. The fleet jumped. The void bent. Stars twisting into ribbons of light. In an instant, they were deep in Vrax space, above a system glowing with the faint, diseased pulse of bioforges. Colossal structures that birthed the enemy's living ships. Multiple targets, Patel reported, her tone clipped. At least 20 warships, plus 3 forges. They're powering up. Good, Eric said. Let them see us coming. The first strike was thunderous. Human rail cannons cracked open the nearest bioship. Plasma fire from the Aurelian cruisers searing the swarms that tried to intercept them. The Irix vessels darted like silver serpents, their living hulls morphing into blades that sliced through Vrax tendrils. Forge 1 is taking damage, Patel said. but the swarm is regrouping. Knox's voice was a growl. Their tribe box us in. Not today, Eric replied. Fleet blink. The human ships vanished, reappearing on the far side of the battlefield. Aurelians and Zalari shifted their formations to follow the chaos, firing into confusion as the Vrax struggled to track the sudden maneuver. Eric's eyes stayed locked on the central forge, a grotesque structure resembling a planet-sized heart. All weapons on the primary forge. Hit it with everything we've got. The Ouroboros' cannons unleashed their full barrage, followed by missile salvos from the Allied fleets. Explosions lit the forge's surface, black ichor and flames spilling into the void. Core breach detected. Patel called. Finish it, Eric ordered. One final volley struck home. The forge imploded in a silent shockwave, its remains scattering like ash on the wind. The victory was brief. Incoming, Patel shouted. A new signature, massive energy surge. On the tactical display, a shadow appeared, a Vrax Titan, larger than any ship humanity had ever faced. It dwarfed even the Ouroboros. Its form was a nightmare of writhing tendrils, jagged armor, and a glowing core the size of a city. Knox muttered under his breath, "That thing's a fortress." Eric's eyes narrowed. Then we break the fortress. The battle that followed was chaos. The Titan moved with terrifying speed, its tendrils lashing out and cleaving an Aurelian cruiser in two. Beams of searing energy cut across the fleet, forcing Allied ships to scatter. Teleportation drive cycling. Patel yelled, "We need time." Eric's mind raced. They couldn't outgun this thing. They had to outthink it. "Knox," he said sharply, "prep the jump core for an anchor strike." Knox's eyes widened. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," Eric replied. "We teleport inside its core, dump every warhead we have, and jump out before it detonates. That's suicide if the timing's off." "It won't be," Eric said. Patel, line it up. The Ouroboros blinked, vanishing just as the Titan's beam tore through where it had been. Inside the ship, alarms blared as they reappeared within the creature's living shell. The viewports glowed crimson, the walls of the Titan's core throbbing like muscle. All weapons fire. Eric roared. Missiles launched point blank. Plasma lances cutting into the beast's heart. The Titan convulsed, the entire ship shuddering under the strain. "Jump now." The Ouroboros blinked out, reappearing kilometers away. A second later, the Titan erupted in a blinding explosion, fragments scattering like shattered bone. Silence fell over the comms. Then a single voice broke through, an Aurelian commander. "The Titan is gone. You did it." Cheers erupted across the fleet channels, but Eric only allowed himself a faint smile. "Target the remaining forges. Let's finish this." It took another hour of coordinated strikes, but when the last forge burned, the battlefield was silent. No more Vrax ships rose from the black depths of their territory. For the first time in years, the swarm had been dealt a decisive blow. Back on the Ouroboros, Knox sank into a chair, exhausted but grinning. "You realize you just rewrote the rulebook on galactic warfare?" Eric looked out at the stars, his expression unreadable. "We didn't rewrite it. We burned it." Patel turned from her console. "The council is hailing us. They want a full report." Eric chuckled softly. "Let them wait a minute. I just want to enjoy the silence." When the council session began later that day, Eric's image filled the chamber. No one doubted him now. No one laughed. Even Zorko was silent, his glare replaced by a grudging respect. "Today," Osira said, her Christ over.